Good Podcast.
Hey ladies and gents, this is Brianna Javon with What's Good Podcast Season 2. We are on episode 5, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today we have Jonathan and Gabby. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and coming on. How are y'all doing tonight?
Good. Thank you for having us.
You're so welcome. So if you guys do listen to my podcast, I don't have interviews. Instead, I have genuine conversations. So let's go ahead and get into it. I usually start off with icebreakers just to calm the mood down so people get nervous. So this is just to calm down the people, right? And so the first one is for you, Jonathan. What was the most embarrassing thing you did in the early stage of dating one another?
What was the most embarrassing thing? Wow. That's a good one.
It is.
Ooh,
That's what the question I was talking about.
I knew you did icebreakers, but I didn't know that. I couldn't prepare for this. Wow, the most embarrassing thing. Well, I guess I thought I asked her on a date, but I didn't.
Oh.
So that would be the most embarrassing thing I would go with.
I need for you to elaborate. Did you assume or?
Well, I mean, before Gabby, I didn't really date per se. I didn't really date, so I didn't know the proper protocol.
Situation.
Oh, you trying to say situationships?
I mean,
Just calling it how it is.
If the situation fit.
Oh, bless your heart, bless your heart. So yeah, I didn't. That really. Yeah, and then I like asked her. I was like, I basically was like, hey, I'm going to eat sushi at this spot. Do you want to? You can come if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, and she came. So, yeah. That would be my most embarrassing. That'd be my most embarrassing one. Yeah.
Okay.
And were you okay with that? Because you're like, oh, okay.
Well, yeah, I guess. It wasn't clear on my side because then he proceeded to tell me how that wasn't a good first date because I was on my phone and it was January, so like all the football games for college were on.
Oh, you're into college football.
I was
sports.
at the time.
Okay.
I've since fallen off quite a bit. I knew a few people that still played, right? So I kept up with players, not really like teams and who else they played, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because I was on my phone and he was like, oh, you're on your phone, that wasn't a date. And I was like, that wasn't a date. You didn't ask me on a date. Like,
it was a hangout session.
Yeah. Like, you would ask me if I was hungry. Yes, I was.
Interesting choice of words. Yeah, okay.
Anyway.
Her story. Okay. And Gabby, for you, would you rather have more time or money?
More time with
Or
what?
more-
Life?
Well,
or
just
like with
period.
him?
No, just in life. Would you rather have more time or money?
It might sound shallow if I say more money, but I'm going to say more money.
That's
Because I feel
your
like
question.
if I have more money, I could, get myself the resources to do more with the time I have.
Okay.
You know?
Ah.
Right?
That was good.
Yeah.
I know some people would have been like, more time. It's the proper answer. But
I mean,
like
but
that.
you need more time to get something that you don't feel you have right now, or to do something you haven't done, right? But it's like, but if I had the money to just go do it, I would just do it with the time I have right now.
Okay. Okay.
You need more money to create more time, so. Money can create more time.
Yeah, like leisure time.
I like it. Okay. So we are going to jump into the conversation. How did you guys meet? Who approached who?
Sure. We met at Watermark.
Mm-hmm.
Should we not name drop?
No, it's
It's
not
okay.
negative.
Yeah.
Not, like,
It's not.
not slandering the Watermark.
It's not. No, it's not. We met at the Porch, their young adult Bible study that they have on Tuesdays.
Okay.
Yeah. We knew mutual people, but I had never met him.
Okay. Okay.
So that's where we met for the first time.
Yeah. It was after the Bible study, then we were out in the like Breezeway-ish area, and then there was a guy that I knew that was in her circle group of friends, because it's like we knew mutual friends, but it was like separate circles, and then we met that night, and then I happened to go to her church like the next Sunday, and then kind of like when you see somebody you've never seen before, then like you see them all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like one of those type things.
So
that
what
was how we
approached
did
who?
it.
Or was it that mutual friend?
Yeah, I think we're just kind of standing in the same spot,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
It was a service after service.
yeah,
You know, that whole.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, Watermark was built for you to like fellowship, right? So we're
True.
just out there
That's a huge
fellowshipping.
church.
It's major.
Massive, yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, so let's talk
But
about
there's
your.
only like a few of us, so it's not like.
Oh, that's true.
But you know, that's like fellowship
Yeah.
church downtown.
I know about. I've never been. I went to PIA to the Poets of Autumn tour there, but I never attended the service there. But
Oh yeah, it's maybe a handful. Like,
Yeah.
hey, it's good seeing you again.
Right, so it's big in there, but then you're like, oh, like you're gonna get to spot you. You're like, oh, hey, you know you came here.
All right, so let's talk about your businesses.
okay.
What do you do? What do you do? Who wants to go first? Sir Jones.
Okay. So for me, then it's kind of multifaceted. So on one side, there's the Jonathan Jones Speaks, where I partner with different colleges, corporations, nonprofits, stuff like that, and then speak around self-improvement as well as retention strategies and things like that. The other piece, Speak Your Success, and that's multifaceted in itself. The podcast piece, and then I recently started a printing company. Because I know podcasts and I know different places individuals need merch because it's another source of revenue.
Right.
So partnering with different individuals like that, schools, churches, and that can create different opportunities to further promote the podcast, the brand, etc. So those would be a few, just in a nutshell.
Well, my 9 to 5 is for a major airline.
Nice.
I do logistics coordination there for beer, wine, and liquor programs on board. And then I started doing events seriously just this year.
Okay. Has it always been like a passion of yours?
I wouldn't say it was a passion as much as, you know how something could, you don't know it's your passion, right? You just do it because you're good at it.
Right.
People tend to ask you for the same type of thing all the time, right? But then it's like, oh, I do like doing this, and I am good at it, right? So that's what it was. In my previous roles, I always ended up being kind of like the team recognition events person, right? Any event for the company, right? So that's where I got into budgeting, and that's where I built, my kind of network of caterers and, event rentals and who I knew and stuff like that. But it was at DFW Airport.
Okay.
So then I got asked to do a few weddings randomly, like if somebody was getting married, and I mean not even solely, but it was just like, hey, we need help, can you help us or whatever, and then it was just kind of I show up and I'm just kind of whatever is needed.
Okay.
I did that a few times, and then my mentor last year asked me to do her reception.
You just mentored through the event planning or
no, through church. I met her through
Okay.
church. Yeah, she used to teach like kind of like Bible study type class.
Okay.
Yeah, but her classes were very popular and like very full, and she's like a woman of excellence. Like I don't think she could do anything below excellent, right? She does not. So she got she got married last year, and when she asked me, I was just like, why me? Like you can really pay people to do this,
right?
And her wedding was like amazing.
Man.
So good.
So yeah, her reception was like 360 people, and
she is loved.
Yeah, and after that, it was kind of like, you should do this, and I was like, I didn't realize this was like a recognizable skill. Like people have seen me do this, obviously, and I was like asking, so I was like, let me see if I can do this for real and see where it goes. So just started doing that this year.
It sounds like it's going good for you.
Yeah, I think I've done like I don't know, like 12 weddings this year or something.
That is good. Well, congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
And speaking of weddings, you guys are engaged. So for one, congrats.
Thank you.
And how long did you guys, I'm sure somebody corrected me last time, we're still dating. So how long did you guys know each other before you popped the question?
We've known each other 3 years.
I don't know.
Well, because
towards the end of 2015 is when I met you.
So we met, dated, broke up, and then got back together. So that's why it's always, when we try to figure out the timeline of how long we've known each other, it's always like, wait a minute.
Yeah, somebody told us we needed to get our story together and we just haven't.
Okay. I mean, it comes over time.
Yeah. It's a little messy, but that's real life.
That is true. That is perfect.
Yeah.
So, it's like, go ahead.
No. I was gonna say. So yeah, we're gonna go with 3 years just for now. We're gonna go with 3 years. Yeah.
And during that time, as far as the breakup, did you always know we're gonna come back together? I'm just working on ourselves. Like, how did that work out? Or was it, we bumped into each other, feelings just started growing again?
No.
No, we got those fairy tales.
It's kind of the first part. So you want me to
keep on
the people listening.
So he actually broke up with me.
Oh.
And his first reason for breaking up was that, he tried to put it off on me. That was one of those things where he was like, shifting the weight here. Where he was like, I feel like you know what you want, and I feel like you are kind of like ready, and I need to date other people. That's how that first one went.
I did say that.
Yeah, I was like, am I wrong? I mean, cut me off when I'm wrong.
No, I'm not. I agree.
Don't let me tell a lie.
No. I got my back door after you tell me.
Yeah, and then like 3 days later, he was like, I don't know why I said that. I don't want to be with you, but I was like, wall was already up, like Great Wall of China up.
It was.
And I was like, you need to date Jesus. Like, you need to figure it out.
Immediately, because you can't go out.
I was like, you don't need to be out here confusing nobody else.
Right.
Yeah, you did say that.
I did. I was mad. I was more so mad that he was like, I'm gonna date other people, because I myself and like friends that I know included, like we like spend time figuring our mess out, and like really trying to let Jesus work through some stuff. Like when you feel like really hurt, you're like, all right, Jesus, I'm gonna go ahead and let you kind of smooth this thing out, because obviously I'm not doing it right.
Right.
And then I was like, and you just gonna put your confusion off on somebody else? Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
So I was upset. So a couple months later, I think like maybe 2 months or so, he had got into.
I'm gonna tell my part.
Okay, you tell it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we'll put the pause there on her story, and then I'll hop in and tell my part.
Okay.
So it's like the half. But so I told her yes. Well, what she said was accurate. The date other people, and that was one of those instances of when you're trying to figure certain things out, and you're just like drowning in a place. You're just trying to grab onto something just to stay afloat. Okay. So that's where I was, and I took advice and I took counsel, and I just took that as truth. I didn't take it and then like go through the process like, wait a minute, does this apply for me? Is this necessarily true, or is it something I just heard? But then I just took it as truth and I just regurgitated it to her. Okay. But ultimately, when we broke up, I knew we were gonna get back together, and I told her, I said, I told her, I said, we broke up. Even though the first time it really didn't go through, she was like, nah, you can't text me that, or you can't, whatever happened. You was like, nah, you basically told me I gotta say that to you. Oh yeah. I
made him come back over.
And it was a long drive.
And tell me again. Not tell me again, but tell me for the first time, right? Because he came over and we walked around the neighborhood, and it was mostly silent until he finally spit out, I think I want to date other people. He never actually said like, oh, we're breaking up, whatever. So then, me being me, I was like, bet, all right. And so walked back to the apartment. I gave him his stuff. Bye. And then the next day, just how you like replay a conversation and you think about things you could have said, or like what was incorrect with what he said. Yeah. So I don't know if he ended up texting me something like, oh, look, how are you? Or one of those like feeler texts. And I was like, you know what? You actually never said you're breaking up with me, and here's why. So I'm gonna need you to come say it for real. That way, when you try to pull this again, you know you did this to yourself.
That's true.
Right? So it was just like, because I was like walling up to a place of like, no re-entry.
Because I know this is just me. I would have felt like so played, like, dang, where did this come from? So we need to have a conversation. So I definitely understand that.
My immediate defense, I think, is just plain mean.
Yeah.
So, it hadn't been long enough for me to try to figure out, was it something I did? Like, I wasn't taking it personally yet. I was just like, protect Gabby.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then after I broke up with her, then that was when I joined this. It was at Watermark. It's called 12-Step Biblical Recovery Program, and it's basically for anything. I mean, there's people in there for all kind of stuff. Some people drug addiction, some people alcohol addiction, whatever it might be. And so I joined that because I knew, and I came to the realization, just being with Gabby when we were dating in that 5-month period, because we just were coming up on our 5-month anniversary at that time. And it was probably like 2 weeks, maybe, if even that long, when the breakup happened. But I realized that I wasn't able to give her what she needed at that time. Because she was looking for vulnerability. She was looking for me to be able to be open and be transparent and to share. And I couldn't even genuinely say I love you. And it was a struggle because of just the way that I was operating in previous life. So went through that, and then like the 2 years passed, like, because it was a year long process. That 12-step recovery, it was a year long. And then she hit me up. She was like, because we both had the date set in our calendar. Because
pause.
Okay.
Yeah, you missed like a key conversation.
Talk to us. Talk to the people.
You missed a key conversation. I feel like this story is gonna go so long.
I'm here for this. I don't understand.
Oh, you want me to grab the tea over here?
Because I'm sipping.
Yes. So you skipped an integral piece of that conversation where he asked to meet up with me, and this is maybe like 6 to 8 weeks, so almost like 2 months into this breakup, that he asked to meet with me, and he told me he was joining this program, and then it was a year long, and that they advise people who, want to seriously commit to this program, to not date, to not have like any extra, relationships like that. Yes. I guess unless you're already married.
So you be devoted to Jesus.
Yeah, wasn't there one guy in there that was married or something like that?
Well, there were some people in there that was married, but then there was like other people, if like you weren't engaged, then they just advised against it. Yeah.
So he told me that, and he was like, but I know I want to be with you, and it's a year, so like I know I can't ask you to wait, but like I'm asking you to wait.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh. I don't know if I can do that for you. But good luck.
I asked you to wait, but before that I asked you to do it with me.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. Really? I said you should do it too. Yes, I did.
You did?
Really?
Oh, I must have missed
you
that.
and your faces, yes.
I must have missed it.
I asked you because it was that same conversation.
Oh, I probably missed half of that conversation because my wall.
Nah, you probably heard it, but you was like, oh no.
No.
Not today, say. I ain't doing that.
That's probably like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I've done my recovery.
I've been delivered.
Yeah, so it was like a year, and he was like, I know I can't like expect you to wait, but I'm kind of asking you to wait, and I was like, no, I can't tell you that I'm gonna do that.
I mean, I felt fine by it. I knew going into the 12-step biblical recovery, one, that after it, she might not be there. Two, that I was really I was going through that for me. But at the same time I was going through the 12-step biblical recovery, I was also going through counseling.
Really?
So I was going through counseling as well. Yeah, I was going through counseling, and then counselors, they play devil's advocate, and I hate it, but I love it at the same time. Because the therapist, he was like, but what if you go through this and she's not there? But what about this? And he was asking all these questions, and then one day I was in there, and then I just started crying because he was asking me, he was like, what makes her so special?
Yes.
And then I was like, and then, because I said, because she's never judged me. And I said, because I remember we went somewhere to dinner for my birthday, and then me and you talked about some stuff. Basically, like I laid out some stuff that would be considered baggage or whatnot. And then I told the therapist, I was like, but she loved me despite all this stuff. Like the stuff I've told her. And it's like, because that's the stuff that you don't want nobody to see. You don't want to tell nobody. But then if you meet somebody that you can trust with that, and you know that it's the stuff that you're telling this person, and that if they leak that stuff, it has the potential to damage you in a very real way.
For real, yeah.
So yeah, I was telling him all that, and then I was in there, and like a couple of tears started coming down. And I was like, I'm sorry. He was like, why are you crying? Don't apologize for how you feel.
Yes,
And I was like, I won't.
Love it.
I'm just gonna fast forward this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So a year later, I was also seeing. I started seeing a woman counselor, and she was really great.
Mm-hmm.
And I started seeing her close to like the 1 year mark, right? So at some point, we both finally became obedient and stopped talking to each other, because it was that really toxic, like back and forth, like we had the same circle of friends, always see you out, type of stuff. Became like a bad cycle, and it was finally like, okay, we stopped talking. And then the year came, the counselor was like, I feel like, you should just reach out, and I was like, no, I feel like he should, or let me know or something, and she was like, you're gonna see him again, just like, get it over with.
Right.
She really got me. She was like, I feel like you're either like a hug me or punch me, but whatever it is, do it right now.
Right.
And I was like, you're right.
Don't
And
wait.
yeah, so she was like, reach out to him, so I did. And he basically said he wasn't ready, that the class was really good for him, but that he kind of uncovered some other stuff that he needed to deal with. And I was
So
like,
you still communicate. Okay.
well,
so this was actually after the class, and the class actually was prolonged, so it was actually a little bit longer than a year.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I was like, that's great. I'm glad you're, kind of dealing with whatever. Because at this point, I still don't know what made him break up with me. Like, I didn't know what he was holding on to. So I was like, cool. So are you sure? And he was like, yeah, I'm not going to date. I'm just going to, like, keep, like, surrendering to God and kind of letting him work this stuff out. And I was like, great. By the way, I was waiting. I'm not anymore. But good luck. That was basically the summary of my conversation. Because after we talked and he asked me that, like, I really went and prayed. And I didn't necessarily like the answer. And I went through my own, like, month of doubt. When you talk to people and they don't understand what it is that you're doing or what you're saying, or right? So I was just like, did he really say this? Am I doing this to myself? Am I holding on to something that he's trying to make me get rid of? Or is he really telling me to wait because this could be something big, whatever? So I was like, what's a year to a lifetime, right? Like, if it's supposed to be my husband, what's a year?
Yeah. You said.
And I told him that too, because when we were doing the whole disobedient thing, I was like, you know what? It's just a year. Like, if I'm for you, then it won't matter wherever you are thinking I'm gonna be in a year. If I'm for you, then I'll, So yes, I told him I wasn't waiting anymore, and then I started dating other people.
New number, who this?
Whatever. Yeah, and then another year went by, and
you really spent some time apart.
Yeah,
we really did.
Yeah, I mean, still kind of popping up every few months of seeing him here and there.
Random. It was so random.
So random.
Because it was places that we didn't go before.
Yeah.
But then and then one time I was driving down 635 and I saw over here, like just like getting. I was like,
Oh yeah, I had gotten a new job and I was at a different building, like completely different location. I'm pulling out of the parking garage and I hear somebody honking at me, and it's this one.
That's crazy.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah, it was.
So I had just told me the other day, if you get that nudge, you gotta figure out what that nudge is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Like, so random things like that happen to y'all.
It really was. Yeah. But the thing that I was able to come to grips to through it all, and this is just for me personally, I can't speak for Gabby, but for me, one thing I had to come to just realizing was, one, everything isn't the right time is never going to come. Like, there is never no right time. And that's what I was waiting for, the right time. I was waiting for the sign. God, show me the sign, like part the Red Sea, do this exactly to where I know. And how selfish is that? Try to make the world shift to the way I need to see it, so that I can make a decision. So I realized that there was never no right time, but then I realized, but you can always make a decision.
So when you grasp that thought, that process, was it a situation after that, like, I'm just gonna go with the flow, or was it something that you were still taking in, like, whenever I feel, I want to talk about the proposal too. So when you grasped that, was it something that you just had to sit down and like take it in, like, you know what, I'm thinking too hard about this. Let me just reach out and, you know, let's figure it out together. How did you, that next step for y'all to get back together?
Well, it was.
I feel like you were trying to go with the flow, to be honest.
Uh-oh.
And
Talk to us then.
you know, he's having his own conversation with God about me at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I've moved on, right?
You did say start dating.
I did. And he was like, I feel like he was making those like feeler attempts, like, hey, how are you? Hey, how you been?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like my wall was still up to him.
Yeah.
So, and I knew what he was trying to get at, like, oh, he's gonna try to come back, and like, you can't do this soft entry, like, you destroyed everything that we built up. So if you want anything with me, you're gonna have to like build it all the way back up, and you can't be like, hey, Gabby, hey, like you need to be like, hey, Gabby, how you doing?
Forceful,
right? Like, you need to like come correct, and don't come at all. I was like. You're not, like, we're not new to each other, so, like, the stuff that works when you first date somebody, like, you trying to feel each other out, like, that wasn't gonna work anymore.
You think you had to rebuild trust at this point?
Yeah, I had to rebuild everything,
From the
really,
start.
yeah.
You feel like y'all had to start from the beginning, in a sense?
We did, but because we had history, it went a lot faster. But I was really prayerful because I was like, I don't want to fall into something because it's familiar. I want it to be because it's right. Like, because this is gonna make sense, because God will get glory from this, not because he's a familiar person that I can talk to, or we can go hang out, or you know, like fall into the same rhythm. Like, it's not gonna be a situationship. Like,
and so when y'all prayed about one another, because I know based on the conversation, it sounds like you guys pray for each other.
Yeah.
Were you more specific to God, like, hey, you know, God, this is who I want, but I want to make sure it's the right time? Like, how are those prayers to God about one another? Not too specific, of course, that's your conversation with God.
Yeah.
But was it, you know, very specific? Was it more broad? How would you guys explain that?
I remember hearing a sermon a long time ago about like God is not a general God, right? So ever since I heard that, I do try to be more specific.
That's good.
In the sense of, okay, if I'm praying over Jonathan, I'm not gonna say like, oh, I pray that he treats me well. Like, Lord, I hope Jonathan, you raise him up to be the man you created him to be. That he is to me who I need. I try to. Because I know I don't know everything about myself or about my life or what's going to happen, I was just like, I more so prayed for him to be who God needed him to be to me.
Nice.
So that I could be who I needed to be, and I could also help him be who he needed to be. And, I mean, I prayed some hard stuff too, because I had to be honest, right? Because I was like, as much as I'm praying for Jonathan Jones, if Jonathan Jones is not my husband, let me know. And I was like, you know, and I know a lot of people at my church, a lot of good women who are older than me, still single, still looking, still hoping.
Yeah.
And I was like, Lord, I don't know when the next one is going to come, but I'm going to trust you for that, because that's going to be a lot better than me forcing something here, and then I spend years, you know, like digging my own hole with this situation. You just waiting for me to get out of it, you know? So I was like, if it takes